Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most shocking and consequential developments of the war so far. In the last several days, Ukraine claims to have inflicted massive losses on Russian forces, over 700-800 troops, and completely shattered two frontline Russian brigades. This isn't just another battlefield update. This could reshape the strategic balance of the war, and today we're going to break down exactly what happened, how it happened, and why it matters so much right now. The past week has seen intense fighting along multiple sectors of the front, but what's grabbing the world's attention is a focused Ukrainian offensive aimed at weak points in Russia's overstretched lines. For months, analysts have said that Russia has been throwing poorly trained units into the field to hold territory. Now, it looks like those cracks finally split wide open as Ukrainian drones, artillery, and precision strikes converged on two Russian brigades that were already suffering from exhaustion, low morale, and dwindling supplies. Reports from the region indicate that Ukraine launched a coordinated strike campaign using long-range drones to disrupt Russian command posts and communication hubs. When those links went down, Russia's frontline units lost their ability to coordinate retreat or request reinforcements. That's when Ukrainian infantry and armored units pushed forward. What they encountered, according to military officials, were Russian positions collapsing far faster than expected. Within hours, trenches that had been defended for months were abandoned. Equipment littered the battlefield, and Ukrainian forces began capturing ground at a pace not seen in months. Russian losses in this sector are being described as catastrophic. The figure of 700-800 troops includes soldiers killed, wounded, captured, or missing. Essentially, an entire frontline formation wiped out or rendered combat ineffective. Satellite imagery and geolocated videos circulating online show destroyed transport vehicles, abandoned armored personnel carriers, and large clusters of Russian troops surrendering after being cut off from the main defensive lines. Some Ukrainian military officers say that this result wasn't just luck. It was the product of weeks of shaping operations that slowly weakened Russian positions until they finally collapsed under pressure. Ukraine's use of drones continues to be a decisive factor. Swarms of small FPV drones hunted Russian infantry in trenches, while larger strike drones targeted command posts and ammunition depots with pinpoint accuracy. In previous months, Russia had begun adapting to these tactics, but the scale of this latest push appears to have overwhelmed their defenses. Electronic warfare systems that normally disrupt Ukrainian drones were either destroyed or forced to relocate due to constant bombardment. Once those systems went offline, Ukrainian drone operators had near total freedom of movement across the battlefield. Another key factor is logistics. Russian forces in this sector were reportedly running low on ammunition, with some units having only a fraction of their usual artillery supply. Ukrainian strikes on supply routes made it almost impossible for Russia to rotate troops or deliver reinforcements. Soldiers interviewed after the battle described a complete breakdown in communication, platoons fighting without orders, commanders unable to reach their units, and armored vehicles left immobile because fuel trucks never arrived. In these conditions, even well-equipped troops would struggle, but for Russian brigades already stretched thin, the collapse was almost inevitable. After breaching the Russian lines, Ukrainian forces reportedly advanced several kilometers in a matter of days. This may not sound huge, but in a war where gains are often measured in meters, it's significant. The real impact, however, is psychological and strategic. Russia now faces major pressure to stabilize the front, and that means pulling reserves from other key sectors. Every time Russia has to plug one hole, it creates vulnerabilities somewhere else, vulnerabilities Ukraine can exploit if it continues to apply pressure. There's also the question of what this means for Russian morale. Losing 2 brigades in such a short time is not just a battlefield defeat. It's a crisis of confidence. Many Russian soldiers already feel abandoned by their commanders, and this latest collapse reinforces the perception that the Kremlin is throwing them into impossible situations with little support. Social media channels linked to Russian troops are filled with anger and confusion, with some soldiers accusing commanders of withholding ammunition or failing to evacuate the wounded. This kind of internal frustration weakens a fighting force long before the enemy even arrives at their position. On the Ukrainian side, morale has surged. For months, Ukraine has been under pressure, facing shortages of ammunition and weapons while trying to hold back Russian assaults. This breakthrough offers proof that, with the right strategy and tools, they can still achieve decisive battlefield gains. Western partners are watching closely as well. Successes like this strengthen Ukraine's case for more long-term military support and advanced weapons systems. When donors see real progress on the ground, they're more willing to keep the aid flowing. Politically, this development puts the Kremlin in a difficult position. Large battlefield losses are hard to hide, especially when videos and satellite evidence start circulating globally. Russian officials will likely downplay the scale of the defeat, but internally, the pressure is increasing. Mobilization could become a topic again, something the Kremlin wants to avoid because of the domestic backlash it causes. At the same time, failing to reinforce the front could lead to more Ukrainian breakthroughs. The next big question is whether Ukraine can capitalize on this momentum. Historically, breakthroughs only matter if you can exploit them before the enemy reorganizes. Ukrainian commanders will now look for ways to widen the breach, cut additional supply routes, and push the Russian defenses to a breaking point. If Russia commits fresh reserves, the fighting will intensify. If they hesitate, Ukraine could secure even more territory and push the front deeper into occupied regions. This moment is shaping up to be one of the most important turning points in recent months. The destruction of 2 brigades and the loss of 700-800 troops represent far more than just numbers. They signal a potential shift in the direction of the war. Whether this marks the beginning of a wider collapse of Russian lines or just a temporary setback remains to be seen. But what's clear is that the battlefield is changing rapidly, and neither side can afford to lose momentum. As new updates come in, we'll continue tracking this story and breaking down what it means for the future of the conflict. Thanks for watching, stay informed, and be sure to join us next time as we follow the next major developments in this evolving war.